Hi.
I am, in all honest, completely fangirling. I'm very excited. I listen to podcasts probably 12 hours a day. And to be on a podcast, I feel like dream come true.
Well, you have to do your own, like you were telling me about.
Mhm. Mine is with my associate and friend, Sarah, is on romance novels. It turns out they already exist. And so, not that you can't have more than one.
Right.
We haven't done it. We have our own little internal studio podcast that we do for ourselves.
I would like to ask some questions because my roommate reads romance novels, quote unquote. She calls it smut.
Yep. Sometimes we call it smut. That's true.
Okay.
But there's a lot of different types of romance and romantasy. And so not all of it is smut, but there is definitely smut.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because to know me, I think it's just like I can't handle smut. And I'm like one of the sassiest people that exists. But she's like, you should read this book. And I'm like, heavens to Betsy, no. I'm not reading smut.
So, yeah. And if you look at book reviews and they say spicy, that's the way that they try to say it without, tipping off Instagram.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff. So actually, there are some authors that we have followed that I have read forever that they used to do like super spicy books. And then I think someone told them, if you just stop like after the part where clearly they're going to do something spicy, then you can market. Like Christina Lauren is really big, right? I mean, like Paradise Problem, The Unhoneymooners, Hazel and John. I mean, like probably has 15 women's fiction books that you can buy everywhere, like Barnes and Noble, Boswell Books. And it's not spicy. It's not really spicy. It's maybe a little spicy. It used to be like super spicy, but then they told them, you're great writers. You don't need to do that. People will still read your books and you'll make $1 billion. So
love it.
Yeah.
My neighbor, she posted something on Facebook that one of her friends just opened like a woman's romance bookstore in town.
There is one on North Avenue. I have not made a pilgrimage yet.
Yeah.
The second one is also opening somewhere else in Tosa.
Interesting. I don't know which one it is. I'll have to look it up. I should have come prepared for this. I didn't know we were going to be talking about it. We haven't even introduced her yet.
By the way, I do love that we have another Wisconsinite today because I did a conference last week for one of my friends who's a planner, and she was like talking about the podcast to people, which was very flattering because you don't want to like assume people are listening. And she was like, oh, it's so great. You have to listen to it. She's like, but let me tell you, if you have any question about where these two women are from, you will know within 2 words coming out of their mouth. And I was like, do we sound that Wisconsin? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So now I'm just going to really lean into it.
Well, Heather's not from Wisconsin originally, so we'll get into that. But Jen, do you want to introduce our guest? Because you always do it.
I do.
And you're always bad at it.
I'm so bad at it. So today on our podcast, we have Heather Cook Elliott, who is a photographer based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm excited because I don't know your story at all. So I can't even really go any further than that. Then both Megan and I have had the honor of working with you, which was lovely. And now we get to hear your origin story.
And I can talk to you without being stressed about a million other things going on at a wedding.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell my story. It does start with, so I guess I'll base it in my own love story. How perfect is that? I'm from Georgia and my husband is from Wisconsin, and we met on a cruise ship. The literal love boat 1 million years ago. And I was on high school spring break with my 3 best friends. And he was on his parents' 25th wedding anniversary cruise so his parents and his sister. And at the time, now I haven't been on a cruise in years, but now when you go on a cruise, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of buffets. You can eat anytime, anywhere, all over the place. And at the time you had an assigned seating, 6:30 or 8:30 in a dining room at a table with a waiter or couple of waiters who were yours for the weekend. And so we were at the same table at the same seating. And so we met about 3 hours into the cruise and yeah, I came home and said, Mom, I met this wonderful family from Wisconsin, which turned out to be my future husband and in-laws. And yeah, so I met them. And then, so then when
Wait. Did you guys kiss on the ship?
we did kiss on it, we stayed up. I probably slept 8 hours total on this whole 3-night thing because we kind of just kept like, we would hang out as a group and then everyone would go to bed and then we would stay up and get chased around the decks by the cleaners as we were trying to find a place to keep talking. And then the last morning as we're rolling into Miami, we like watch the sunrise,
Oh my gosh.
fell asleep on the deck chairs. So yes, we just kissed on the ship. So then during college, we dated all through college. And then when I eventually found my way back to, so I eventually, we got married and Milwaukee was always going to be home. So that's how I ended up here. But prior to living here, I went to architecture school, to grad school at Georgia Tech to be an architect. And we got married there. And like every photographer, being a part of my own wedding, planning and looking for photographers made me very interested in wedding photography. But I will say, I was a photography major in college. I had gone to architecture school and was still doing photography, but it was film and darkroom photography. And if you've met me, you know I'm pretty social. And the idea of being a mole in a dark room for the rest of my life, I just could not imagine.
Yeah.
So anyway, but then kind of after I started being an architect and things went digital and I shot my first few weddings on film. It was harrowing.
How nerve-wracking looking back, right? You're not able to see it right away.
Yeah, and it wasn't even so at the time. I mean, obviously, I was such a newbie. I wasn't a newbie photographer, but I understood my gear. I understood film, but I was new to weddings. I had been in like my wedding, and I had second shot a couple weddings, and at friends' weddings, I took my camera and took some photos. But my first full weddings were in Milwaukee. I remember one of them. I was at the Grain Exchange. I was at Grace Lutheran and the Grain Exchange, which are very big, very dark.
Uh-huh.
Today, I think of them as you need to be kind of
Yeah.
skilled to shoot there. And so I had a roll, have a roll of 800, black and white film in the camera with 36 exposures. And we go from inside the church to outside the church. I mean, that's a very different series of settings. And I was shooting alone.
Oh my gosh. What year was that, Heather?
That was 2005.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is my 20th year, 20 years later. There you go.
Yeah.
So you actually were working as an architect for a little bit.
Oh yeah. So my first 7 years in Milwaukee, I was doing both.
Okay.
I came to Milwaukee to be an architect, but I had a small portfolio of weddings, and my husband works for himself, so he was working on Saturdays. I was kind of like, what am I going to do? So 2005 was a little bit of the Wild West of photography. It was kind of the early days where people were building blogs. If you did do some digital, like it was a very open market.
Yeah.
People were starting so some were being shot on film, some were being shot digitally. Yeah. So I basically was like, well, I would love to work on Saturdays instead of watching TV while he's working. And so I started shooting weddings. And then through like 2010, 2011, 2012, I basically had 2 full-time jobs because I had a studio. I shot 25 weddings a year while also being a licensed architect. It was kind of an insane time.
Yeah. I think a lot of wedding vendors start out like that in this middle stage of your life where you've got one foot in each thing and it's really challenging.
It's also we have the energy to do it though. I mean,
Yes.
remember energy?
Heather still has lots of energy. Heather runs marathons.
Oh, you're sweet.
Well, there's a difference between hobby energy and running 2 full-time businesses energy.
That's true.
I agree. And I would think the difference between now and then, I mean, I do have a lot of energy, but I don't necessarily, like, even with my business, there's so much on the table that I kind of look at and be like, oh, I could be doing that, or maybe I should market that. I could do that. And I just am like, no, I want to focus and be both confident and still excited and happy and save the energy for my weddings so that
Yeah.
Mhm.
when I show up, I'm happy to be there and it all feels like a talent and a gift and a job, but
Yeah.
all positives.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about that, just like how, the more seasoned you get, I think the more you realize how much energy is being exerted into every client, and it's like, if you're not careful, it gets to a point where you're like, ugh.
Mhm.
And like, how horrible to feel that way.
Right.
Like going, you don't want to feel that way going to somebody's wedding.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And afterwards, I mean, since we sit with the images for so long and edit them, every wedding, there's a point at it where the balance of, is this worth it? Is this couple worth it? Is this family worth it? Is this day away from my
Mhm.
family worth it? And happily, I 99.9% of the time end with the answer is yes. But that's taken a long time of understanding when I'm interviewing with a client, do I want to hang out with your family
Right.
on this beautiful summer Saturday?
Right.
And so when the answer is yes, I'm not shy about saying, I want to hang out with you. Hire us.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
I think this is a great time to ask you about your pet peeves. I was a little concerned because Heather's just like the nicest, sweetest person in the whole world. And I was like, is she going to come back with some interview pet peeve? You know what I mean? Like my pet peeve is when I like the mom so much and then I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's super sweet. I'm glad that I come off as sweet because I don't sometimes I marinate in like a very, in weddings all the time. Sometimes I come back and I hear stuff I'm saying and I'm like, that's not very nice.
I think that's the Southern in you.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Well, my pet peeves are kind of like hot tips that
Okay.
end up being a pet peeve if they don't happen. And
Got it.
one I've been railing about for like literally 20 years at this point. It's so dumb. I'm tired of hearing myself talk about it, but every single weekend, it's the dress is too long. So I think that this dress, it is hemmed to the floor and that is beautiful. And I get it. However, every bride has lost a little too much weight and her dress is a little bit lower on her.
Mm.
Shoes have jewels on them and it catches in the bottom of the hemline. She cannot walk up steps. Like she has to pick it up. So I try
Mhm.
to make it look pretty, like I can tell her where to pick it up, but she has to pick it up in order to move. And then she changes into her I'm so excited Air Force Ones that are beaded and it's even lower.
Mhm.
Now it gets stepped on during dancing and then she's got this big train hanging out. It's okay, I don't care if it gets dirty, but it's just literally impedes movement. And usually when people have hired us, so much of what our photography is people literally moving through their day authentically, happily, talking to people. And then this dress, it's too long. So I think that the seamstresses, and Megan, maybe Jen, you might know, do they tell them to hem it to the floor? I'm going to say insist that it is an inch too short.
So I don't know. I don't go with to like seamstress appointments or anything, but I would imagine that when when the bride would be looking at it too, she probably wouldn't want it up high. She'd probably want it to the floor, don't you think? Without knowing what you're saying.
Like when you try them on, they put you on a pedestal. The longer the dress is, the prettier it looks.
Yeah.
The taller we look, I get it. But hemmed to the floor, either you have to be so careful that your shoes don't have jewels on them to catch because the number of like beautiful little hemlines
Yeah.
that those Badgley Mishka jeweled shoes get caught in,
Mhm.
can't walk, or we have to put like band-aids around the edges, like all this interesting stuff. Or if you're going to change into tennis shoes, it's got to be hemmed to the tennis shoes.
Mhm.
Yeah, or you have to change your dress. Like then you put on a party dress. Now, I find this actually fascinating. I've never in 13 years had a conversation about this, and I've never thought about it once. But now that you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, because I think the other thing is like, let's be real, none of us wear ball gowns ever, period.
Right.
Like maybe one of us did in high school to prom, and that was weird. But anyways, it's like we're not used to walking in this type of garment.
Right.
And, it's not like you're talking about bringing it up 6 inches. It's probably what, like a half an inch?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a half an inch makes a lot of difference in a lot of situations.
Okay, Jen.
I'm talking about dresses.
I think you're right, Heather. You know what I've noticed is that when brides are walking around, they're constantly, in the last like 2 years, it seems like grabbing them and just like yanking them up right in front of them so that they can walk, but they're not doing it in like a lovely, elegant fashion. You know, when the dresses used to have like the little wrist things, or like maybe the seamstresses used to tell them like how to hold the dress and now they don't. But all these dresses too, like they've got slits, and these girls are like, grabbing them, pulling them up so that they can walk. And I've had to like politely tell a couple ladies, like, please be careful how high you're pulling that.
Yeah.
Like, I swear I saw like vagina at one point. I was like, you need to like drop your dress.
Yeah. At a minimum, you're seeing Spanx.
Yes. And as the night goes on, you become less aware of what you're doing. So, yes, I can definitely see your point. I don't know what the solution is, just maybe getting the word out there.
Just a little bit short. And because also people, I mean, I know the party dresses are a big thing now, but oftentimes, like first dance, the number of times I've seen a bustle has already been stepped on.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's sort of dragging this weird little like half tail around.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's just like a really weird nitpicky thing that I wish I could change.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah. Another one is, so we love to see Pinterest boards or whatever the modern equivalent is. Like people's, just if brides have been looking or moms have been looking at photographs, we want to see them because
Mhm.
like, I've had where a bride, every picture she sent me had a huge veil in it. And I was like, oh, so you have a huge veil. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have a veil. Okay, well, maybe think about getting one, or you need to stop looking at veil pictures.
Right.
But I want the boys to look at them. I want like if she's been looking at all of this and then the guy has never seen it and she wants like that kind of, she's got a veil and they're going to put it over his head and they're going to kiss under it.
Yep.
If we try to sort of kind of make that natural and sort of make it look like the wind blew it over them, he does not know what's happening. He's very
Right.
confused as to what he's supposed to do under this veil. But if he's seen the pictures, if he's seen the Pinterest board, suddenly he's in the game and he's like, oh yeah, I know what she wants.
Yeah. I know what this is supposed to look like. You're not just being weird and this is going to make me look like an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times I have to tell the guys, like, your job is to look at her like she's gorgeous and amazing. That's your whole job. And
Mhm.
then he's like, oh, okay, I get it. But otherwise, guys tend to think he's supposed to look at he had senior photos the last time he was in front of a camera. So he thinks he's supposed to look at the camera the whole time. Whereas she's been looking at all these photographs where he's twirling her around,
Right.
So I feel like the boys need to look at the Pinterest board.
I yelled at Jared when we got married on the day of our wedding. I was like, stop just smiling at the camera. And I didn't even have like a Pinterest board or anything. I just knew he was like awkwardly being weird. I was like, you don't need to look at the camera the whole time. Like,
Well, and then that leads me to a question, because I think one of my pet peeves, another one, when it comes to photography, and I actually tell my couples, like, we're not taking a shot list to the photographer, like, as far as this pose and this pose. Like, if I catch wind of that, I'm like, no, like, we're capturing your day and what you're doing.
right.
So how much of that are you willing to, like, is there a limit where you're like, okay, yeah, we'll do a few of these, but like, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So we always do an engagement session, which usually puts to rest a lot of things because they get a lot of confidence out of like, they don't need to tell us what to do. And they're like, okay, that's great. But the few times that we've gotten a very detailed list or the kind of Pinterest board where it's very clear that these are all staged and they're going to, like, you got to do it. Usually I'll have a little conversation where I'm like, just so you know, if we do this, you're not going to be present.
Right.
You feel like a photo shoot all day. And once I usually say that, they're kind of like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. I just liked that they looked fun or silly or romantic. Then they start to use words to describe what they're going for.
Mhm.
And then I usually will pick like one that I'm like, okay, I'm interested in this because, like, I remember one was, you've seen the photo where the bride and groom are being still and people are moving all around them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I would pick that and be like, okay, I think this looks really cool and we could probably make this happen.
Yeah.
Technically, how do you do that?
So, I mean, literally, I mean, the bride and groom need to stand still.
Yeah.
And then the bridal part, if you're in like a train station, like the classic way that it's so cool is people are moving. So you do a longer exposure, but the bride and groom know to stay still. Yeah. And then everyone's moving. With a bridal party, we make the bridal party like walk past them. And we're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna walk past them.
Yeah.
I do think that's a cool image. I have seen that.
We did that once, like, but it was in front of a church that kind of like where it has like 3 arched doors. So
Mhm.
you knew you could still see. For me, place is really important.
Mhm.
That we know you're getting married by a lake or in a tent or at a church. And so that's why I kind of made, I was like, okay, that'll look really cool with the building and the couple being still.
Mhm.
Okay, I can get behind it. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you describe, because I think that this is interesting. A lot of couples come in and photographers hopefully are one of the first things that they look to book after they have their date and their venue. And a lot of people come in and they just think, "Oh, the venue gave me this list of photographers, so here's, a couple preferred vendors, I'll go off of that." Or my cousin used this photographer, I'll use this photographer. But I really think, and I think you do too, that there are photographers have different styles and you really, like you kind of touched on, need to click with your couple, right? And make sure that it's a good fit. So, can you describe what you think your, I don't know if the word ideal couple is right, but like what would make you be a good fit for somebody who's looking for a photographer?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think that so I used to be an architect. I have 2 associates, one who studied architecture in undergrad and one who is an art history and a painter. So all of us are very into space and place. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a phrase I use a lot, that we really vibe off of. We can shoot in any atmosphere, but if you choose the art museum and a church and a Catholic church, that should look and will look very different than if you get married in a backyard and then have a tented reception. So we really want to make sure that you also want to see your space in place. Like, if really you want, so we're really good for people who love detail and they want everything to be shown off, but they really want family, friends, people, space, place, atmosphere, all of that kind of feeling to show up. And maybe that sounds like everybody wants that, but I do think that sometimes some couples almost, they haven't really, they're like, we're just getting married in a place, like it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
And so I would say that's not quite right for us, because place really is going to show up a lot.
Right. They just picked a place because it was available, or yeah, they don't really care.
Or maybe their mom really wanted them to get married in a church and they don't
Mhm.
really care.
Right.
Parents were members of that country club, so that's where they went.
Right.
Oh my God. I roll. Not my client either. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I love it. And the other thing would say is that most of our couples are kind of type A people, or at least they're very accomplished. They're very good at their jobs. A lot of them have been to grad school. They might live out of state, and they really want to come back, hire a bunch of professionals, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to feel seamless for them, whatever
Mhm.
happens over there. And so
Mhm.
they want to make sure that like mom and grandma are going to get a beautiful, like camera aware portraits. But for the most part, they want us to all like do our thing, and they don't really want to direct it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They also want to be super confident that it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So for us, we're really good about like when it's time to say, okay, look at the camera. We're going to be really efficient. We're going to make sure that there are beautiful, beautiful portraits. We're going to fix your bra strap. We're going to make sure that mom knows she has a photo with the bride and dad has a photo with the bride and all of that. But then for the rest of the night, we're just going to be ninjas and magicians who are everywhere,
Mhm.
and we photograph it all. And it's this like great combination of like documentary, and every vendor is going to have beautiful photographs of the stuff they did.
Mhm.
And all together, it makes a
Mhm.
full story.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna compliment you some more. Well, not that you're complimenting yourself. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, what I love about you too is, and if you're raw dogging your wedding and you don't have a planner, I will tell you what I love about how you approach weddings is like you are very organized, you are very technical, but you're fun. I think very few creatives can straddle both worlds. Like
Mhm.
Megan and I've worked with countless creatives, and sometimes you're like, how are you running a business? Like I have no idea how you're running a business. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And not only, I mean, you're super organized, super professional, but fun to be around. And it's just like, it's like nice to know. I think that's how you approach, like that almost goes exactly with what you're saying. It's like professional and fun. You're the mullet.
I'm a mullet.
And we don't have to worry. So if you don't have a planner and you're talking to photographers, you should be asking questions to make sure they know their shit and that they are organized, and you're not going to like book this photographer and not hear from them until 12 hours before your wedding. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do know what you mean. Although we love working with planners. I mean, planners. I cannot talk it because like sometimes people will say, well, we have a venue manager. We're all getting ready at the same place and we're doing it all there. Do we really need a planner? And then I start telling about at my own wedding where I forgot to pay the caterer completely beforehand.
Mhm.
And my planner like went to my apartment, got my checkbook, wrote the check, brought it over the table, and I just signed it. And that's the kind of stuff that a venue manager, they're great, but they can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Megan, I'm going in with a question for all of us.
Okay. Okay.
I've never asked this question, but I'm going to start with Heather because I'm just curious.
Okay.
You've been doing this 20 years. Walk us through your pre-wedding ritual. And I'm not talking about like how you like I packed my, or you can say I packed my gear. What are you doing the night before the morning of a wedding?
What a great
Right?
question. So we have a million batteries, cards, like all that stuff. So all of that has to be done the day before. So usually on Fridays or Thursday if it's a wedding, I take over like my dining room with blinking lights of flashing stuff. I always work with seconds, and oftentimes we have multiple weddings for the week. So Fridays are for I'm writing checks, I'm getting my all everybody's cards together because I control all of the imaging cards.
Mhm.
And oftentimes I'm like driving around and like dropping off a lay flat background and some cards and a
Oh.
check. And like most of my photographers live in Milwaukee. And so I kind of, how you doing? Are we like, we're like getting excited for the weekend.
You're pumping everybody up, right? You're pumping your team up.
Yes, yes. And then I'm not drinking. I'm not partying. I mean, Friday it's very chill. We have like Friday night at my house is usually family movie and pizza night
Mhm.
because gotta get to bed.
You don't wanna be hungover at the wedding?
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
no. Nope, nope. I mean, I would say like 15 years ago, I could do that, but no, not anymore.
It happened to me once very early on, and I was like, as I was driving through the Arby's drive-through getting curly fries between the ceremony and the reception, I was like, "Never again. Never again."
Totally. Um, yeah, and then in the morning, I have a family and they're always like we do a lot of going to the coffee shop in the morning and everything, but everybody knows my drop dead time. I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, 10 a.m. I'm out. You got to get all your questions in before 10 a.m."
Yeah. Yeah. You turn into photographer at 10 a.m. no
Yeah.
longer. Yeah. Okay. Megan, what's your event rituals?
Well, I have to do the rehearsal the night before. So Fridays, or I got, the day before the wedding, whenever that is, I'm at the actual rehearsal. So unlike you, Jen, I don't do the dinner. Like they can pay me more to do the dinner, but it's not included. So I'm just there to orchestrate the actual rehearsal, whether that's at a church or somewhere else. And then I usually go home. It's very similar to Heather, except I'm not plugging in a bunch of electronics, just family night, usually on Friday night. Saturdays, I do like to wake up and get a run in. I know that sounds really like, oh, look at you, but I don't know. Even though I'm going to be on my feet all day, I really like to just, I don't know, get my blood pumping or something.
Get those endorphins going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we usually have like a soccer game or something with the kids, but same, like I know going in what time I need to leave and be ready, and I have my phone on. So there's a lot of times I'm getting texts or calls in the morning.
Okay.
It's never anything major usually, but, I do have to kind of be on call even though I'm not there in the morning.
Yeah. I usually go on some wild date. No, just kidding.
I see. I've been
Uh,
listening. You
flex-
go in the van to a bar.
Yeah.
exactly. No, so usually I'll run the rehearsal and then I'll have someone from my team do the dinner. My couples always are like, please stay. And I'm like, nope, because I
Yeah.
like to go home. Like I shower the night before. I'm just like chill, go to bed early. And then in the morning I'm like do the powder, electrolyte powder. That's the first thing I do in the morning.
Mm.
And then and I drink coffee. I just like lay in bed as long as I can. I'm the opposite. I'm like I am going to get 20,000 steps today, so I'm laying in this bed until I have to get up and go. So, that's what I try to do. And I usually force myself to eat. Can you guys like I'm not hungry. I always have like so much adrenaline already. But do you like eat in the morning before a wedding or no?
Oh, I have to, otherwise I don't feel like I have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I super hydrate because I find that my lips start to chap.
Do you ever get to, like, dinner and realize you haven't gone to the bathroom all day, where all of a sudden you're like, "Okay, I need to drink water,
Yes.
and I need to maybe, like, get my body functioning again?" Yeah.
So crazy about the chapped lips, and I was talking to somebody about it because even if I'm drinking all day, it happens. And they were like, "Well, you're talking all like not only are you constantly moving, but you're talking. So you are just like drying out in every possible
Mhm.
way. And then you're like a fucking prune when you get home. And then the next morning, I'm always feel like I'm hungover, but I'm like not.
Yeah.
God, it's so. Why do we do this? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
Heather, I was gonna ask you, since you've been doing this for so long now, is there any wedding that sticks out in your mind still as just, like, having some sort of crazy story or incident happen that you'd be willing to share? You don't have to name names. It doesn't have to be bad, just, like, something that, happened.
She listens to the cast. She knows. She knows.
Yeah, but she might not wanna say.
I mean, in by and large, actually, I was talking to Sarah yesterday, my associate and friend, and I was like, I can't think of any terrible stories, and she rattled off like 12 terrible stories. I think you just don't remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Like I just 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
whatever happened. Let's just keep. I'm just so focused on stuff
Yeah.
because by and large, especially in the last since 2020. I feel like something wedding like there was like some sort of gear shift around 2020, and all of our weddings are just incredible. I mean, like it, and I don't mean like everybody has a massive budget and everything is like gorgeous and publishable. I just mean I feel like we're getting the right couples that are so sweet and so nice, and I love the families and the venue. Like the venue managers love the families, the planners love everybody's like all
Mhm.
in. So for the most part, every wedding is like really positive. But I will tell you one story that I could think of that was not good.
I was like, "You've been doing this for 20 years, though."
Sarah had one where she was getting married, where there was a body pulled out of the Milwaukee River.
Oh,
I think the ceremony and reception were at the Historical Society, which is like downtown along the river.
right by the river.
And the
Yep.
cocktail hour happens adjacent to the building on the riverside. And
Uh-huh.
there's a beautiful park and a pavilion, and it's a very lovely place. So she remembered like a body was being pulled out, and so it was very difficult to not pay attention to the policemen and the fire.
Yeah. I'm totally into true crime, so I'd be like, "Oh my god, I need to go down there and investigate this."
I did not show up in the photos. I will. I was like, we are not memorializing that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Although there's been some sweet ones. We did one at a private house on a lake, and and they did a first look, and everything was happening on the grounds. And for some reason, the dad, he was lovely, he was wonderful, but he was going to get ready at the last pot. For him, it was a day at the lake, and so in the background of like the first look photos, he's like walking to the pier in his shorts and like jumping in and toweling off.
Oh my gosh.
Like, is that your dad? She's like, yeah, that's dad. I'm like, okay, hey, dad. But there's just some funny little quirks like that, but nothing
Yeah.
really gossip worthy. But my one bad story is a priest once told me, and this was in the last 2 years. It may have been one of your weddings, Megan.
Fingers crossed.
I'll say it. It's okay. This isn't bad because they're a different priest. I was at Jesu,
Okay.
and which is a big church on Marquette's campus. I have worked there many, many times.
Mhm.
I'm very cognizant that there is a church lady who kind of holds the line.
Yep.
But Jen, I see you with the church lady. She's got a tough job because it's oftentimes a different priest. Like it's not the same priest who's performing the weddings. And she was fine. I was like, she and I were on the same team. I got her. And I am standing at the end of the aisle where I always stand, kind of half behind a pew, half in the aisle. And I hear the priest say, you need to move out of the aisle. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of like scooch over and we're getting a couple people in, and I feel a touch on my back. And I think it's the videographer kind of saying to me, like, hey, I'm right here. So, don't back up or whatever. So I just stay still.
Yep.
And I hear, you need to move. And then I'm like, but you just touched me. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And then the bride is literally, fortunately, Jesu is a very long aisle. She's halfway, the bride and the groom the bride and her parents are halfway down the aisle. And I hear, if you do not move, I will call the police on you.
What?
And I'm like, wait, what? And I like take one more snap because it's,
The moment.
the moment. And I turn and it's the priest. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that was him. So I basically like shuttle out to the side, like, okay. And so apparently
What in the world?
he meant you are not allowed at all at the front of the church in the aisle completely. So video and we all kind of reconvened in the back because the videographer next to me heard it and was like,
Right.
I don't know what to do now. So we all basically like put on really long lenses and stood really far away.
Well, yeah, that's crazy.
I'm so sorry, but what are the police going to do? Could you imagine?
Yeah, I was like, this feels very confrontational. You're a priest. It's a wedding. It's the processional. Has a bride walking down an aisle.
Yeah.
I don't understand where I get this from.
Mm-hmm.
Jesu is crazy. I don't mind a church wedding. I know Jen isn't a huge fan of them, but I don't mind a church wedding. I got married at Jesu. So, I love Marquette, love the church, even though I know that they're not affiliated with each other really. It's just on the campus.
This is Megan's disclaimer before she throws shade.
Yeah, well, they are so freaking strict about everything and strict to a point where, like, I'm sorry, they're borderline mean sometimes. Like, I've had couples tell me stories about their prep for getting married there, and there have been some stories where the priest or, the people in the parish are just, they're kind of
Yeah.
mean to them. They made one of my brides cry one time. One time, I'm not kidding you, we were in the back of the church. Dad had disappeared. He had gone outside and we could not find him. And dad is supposed to walk his daughter up the aisle. So if this was not in a church, this was at a different venue and I'm running it, we would not start until we find dad. And then we say, okay, we're ready to go now. No, I tell the priest this. He comes back and he's like, well, it's time to start. And he starts the processional, and we don't have dad. I am not kidding. The doors closed for the bride. She is in the back swearing under her breath about her dad, which shouldn't be happening on the day of the wedding, right? Because she's like, I knew he would do this. He wouldn't be around. My assistant finally found him like kind of around the block and pulled him in at the very last minute to walk his daughter up the aisle. But that priest was waiting for nothing, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was like, oh my God.
That is like, I'm so sorry, but I just have to say this. Isn't it always the case when we're ready to do toasts that we have eyes on everyone, we tell everyone not to leave, and then we look at photo and we look at video and we look at band, and then dad is gone. Dad is always gone. I'm like, I literally just told this man not to move, and now he's gone.
They
How
always have to go to the bathroom at the last minute.
do
It
these
never fails.
things function? My God.
Or when
Um,
the DJ says, like, and now, like, they're doing the first dances, but then the mom of the groom is like not
Right.
standing where she's supposed to be, and then there's
yeah.
venue-wide search for where's mom.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Have you, I know, Megan, going back to church ladies, I know you've worked at, what is it called? Lady Madonna or whatever, the one on Loyola's campus. You've done a wedding at Loyola, didn't you?
Oh, I'm going down to Cuneo Mansion, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, but they're not getting married there. It's just the mansion.
Heather, have you ever worked in that church on Loyola's campus?
I have not.
Don't, if you can avoid it. I'm gonna say names.
No, because then I'll have to put John Smith in again and bleep it out. So think about what you're really going to say.
So her name is like not Brownie. I'll only say
Okay.
Brownie. Her name's
Okay.
Brownie. And she is the meanest. She's the meanest. She put her hands on my assistant. Like literally put my hand, and I had to go up and be like, absolutely not. We are, because I always say, like, I'm just here to help.
Yeah.
I get it. I know who's the boss here, right?
Right. We don't come in and try to take over at a church. It's
No,
like, you're in charge. Tell me how I can help,
exactly.
whatever, because they are very protective.
They are, and I have respect for that, right?
But don't
But
you wonder, what do people do? Like sometimes, like priests or church ladies will talk to me as if, are other photographers crawling up behind and like taking photos of the host? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. I don't understand either.
I don't.
Yeah.
But it's also like I don't judge every DJ because I had one bad DJ
Yeah.
situation. It's just like, but to me, it's like, this is like literally the house of God and you are being abusive. Which I mean, I guess that tracks. But anyways, moving on.
I had a year where I did a couple Greek weddings at the Greek Orthodox Church in
Ooh.
Tosa. And if you've never been in a Greek church, and I apologize, I don't know a lot about this religion, but from what I remember, because this was like 10 years ago now, the altar is kind of like got a gate around it or something. And somebody came up to me, like a priest or a church person before the ceremony, and they gave me whatever this was, and they're like, "This needs to go up to the altar. Can you take it?" Okay, sure. So there's guests like seated in the pews, and I start walking up, and all of a sudden I start walking up to the altar. And if it's not called an altar, I apologize, but that's what I'm going to call it. Walking up to the altar, and the whole church congregation is like, like huge gasp. And I like looked, like froze, right? And looked, and they're like, you can't go in there, like it's a sacred space. And I didn't know. I was just like, oh my God, I have this. I don't know what to do. Like, just take it from me. And the priest came out and he took it or whatever. But I was like, I don't know. So maybe it's because of people like me who don't know.
Wearing shoes on the mandap.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I did it once and I never did it again. Then I knew.
See, the audible gasp is very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my first times at Old St. Mary's, and maybe they stopped doing this because of me, they used to put the crackers and the wine, the host, on a little table in the middle of the aisle.
Uh-huh.
Some point, like halfway through the ceremony or something. So I am more than halfway up the ceremony photographing, and apparently that table got put there. And so I am slowly backing up to get up to the aisle. And I have two cameras on. One of them is around my back and one is in my hand. And I hear, stop. And I look behind me and the table is sort of like wobbling.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you didn't knock it over though.
Not knock it over.
Uh-huh.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. That was literally Jesus. You almost like,
I believe the bells had rung.
you like almost backed your ass up.
And is that the church that has like the that wooden like lightning bolt in the middle that could have like fallen and hit you? Or is that
That's the cathedral.
Oh, that's the cathedral. That's right.
The wooden lightning bolt. Yeah, a little bit.
Oh God.
I could never
Church
figure out,
wedding.
should I get the whole lightning bolt in or should I just come down to, yeah.
So funny too. I get the whole lightning bolt in. Oh, Jesus is so funny.
All right, Heather. Well, we always ask we haven't asked this yet. Is there anything Well, I have 2 questions. First, you've been doing this for 20 years. You still clearly enjoy it. It looks like you enjoy it. You're making it seem like you enjoy it. How many weddings do you still take every year?
Yeah, yeah. Well, pre 2020, we just rolled with it. Like we didn't have any
Yeah.
rules. It was like luck of the draw, which is crazy now that I think about it. And then in with 2020, we rescheduled over 26 weddings. So in 2022, we had 47 weddings.
Yeah, insanity, right?
At which point we were like, okay, parameters, let's do it. So I have
Yep.
two associates, Emily and Sarah, and then me. And so we all lead shoot separately. And I have found that um, I am happy doing 10 to 15.
Mhm.
And then we want to have about, we're happy having about 35. So
Mhm.
that remaining 20 is divided usually between Emily and Sarah. So they each, some years Sarah has done like 15, like
Mhm.
equal amounts, and then Emily maybe 10. So
Okay.
we're happy that the editing sweet spot, because really that's the work of it afterwards is all of the editing. And I have some big rules, like everybody has their images by Thanksgiving. You go home to your family with your pictures.
Mhm.
Do not edit over Christmas, like there's just certain
Yeah.
things. So that's about 30 to 35. 35
Mhm.
is like, oops, I didn't mean to do that.
Right. Because you do all the editing, right?
Yeah, Sarah's in studio, and so she absolutely helps with that. She does a lot of editing, but every image comes through me before it is sent out.
That's a lot of work.
It is.
Yes. And you typically don't like to do or don't prefer to do as many weddings or any in the winter, right?
Yeah, so we used to did we do the a wedding at Cafe Brower together? Was that me and you?
Yeah, that was March. Does March count?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
made an exception for that wonderful couple because I knew them and I had photographed her sister's wedding. But
Mhm.
usually we don't do any December through March anymore.
Yeah. That's how I am too. I'm actually even making that a little bit longer. So it's just like exceptions that kind of fall in.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love a winter
I
wedding, but I love to be done and then
Yeah.
what is the plant that you have to like put it in your basement so that it gets energy again and then you bring
Right.
it out?
Yeah, definitely. You
That's
need
me.
a break.
Is that the Little Shop of Horrors plant? That's me. I'm like, feed me, Seymour. I've never even seen that movie, but I do know that reference.
Okay. And then my other question was Jen and I always like to ask, what is something that you'd like to manifest for your business or yourself? Like, do you have a goal of something or a place that you'd like to shoot? It can be anything.
Ooh, those are cool. Um, oh gosh. I sort of I'm afraid to manifest it. That's the thing. So, okay. So I am on the backside of 45. No, I'm okay. I'm 46. So, and every milestone I'm like, I can't imagine being 40 and still following the Brads around. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, 50. And I'm wearing my new maiden mother crone medallion, which
Okay.
reminds me to love my age.
Mhm.
And I do.
Okay.
But anyway, so my point is that I still like I feel like it has to evolve. I can't be 70 and photographing weddings.
Yeah.
But my team and I have worked together for like 12 years now. Sarah's been with me for like 13, Emily with from maybe 11 or 12. And I would love to figure out a way to do something that I don't know that a lot of maybe you guys know photographers who do this, that's more like a true team approach, like the Annie Leibovitz of wedding photography.
Oh.
What I mean is that I really thrive on the super emotionally resonant parts of the day. So I think that my skills and my eye and my heart and everything is really engaged, getting ready, styling lay flats, making sure that the bride, the way that her, like the experience that the bride and the mom have together before they see bridesmaids or dad or whatever, first looks, all that. I feel like I am super useful.
Mhm.
Like I love it. once we get to the reception and I have photographed the heck out of all the beautiful work that the vendors have done, to me, it's response. I don't pick where the toasts are given from. I don't pick
Mhm.
the way the lighting is set up. I don't pick anything anymore. I respond to what has been designed. And to some extent, that's kind of when I go into technical mode, less emotional mode. And so my team is technically great, like as well. Like I don't really feel like I need to be there. And so in
Mhm.
my head, I could shoot weddings until I was 70 if I was doing the first 4 hours of every day or
Mhm.
the first 5 hours of every wedding
Right.
day. And
Mhm.
so I think my next thing is to figure out how to make that concept a real thing, and for couples and parents to understand that as like a team approach, not just a Heather is the lead or Sarah is the lead or
Mhm. Mhm.
an owner shooting or an associate shooting, kind of a third.
Yeah. I think that's the trickiest part is not because conceptually you've figured out how you want to do it. The hardest part is figuring out how to market it to people so that they buy into it too, right? Because a lot of times people come back and they're like, well, even when I'm talking to people about just hiring you guys for photography, a lot of times people will be like, well, we want Heather, because it's your name on the company. We don't want the other, and Sarah and Emily are great. So it's interesting how,
Chosen to name it my name. I've set myself up for this problem.
yeah,
It's interesting though, because I think you did it at a time when not a lot of people were doing that. And I think that is important, but it's like now it's like if you do go into that, it might need to be a total rebrand just to, have it be more team focused. I don't know. I hear that stuff and that makes me excited. I'm like, yeah, how do you do it?
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's borrow
Yeah.
some of your excitement.
Yeah. I wouldn't have a problem like trying to sell that to people. Like I wouldn't have a problem like telling my brides this is a great approach to go. It's just a matter of them believing it, right?
Kids, I need to check out of my hotel. So if you guys want to keep talking, you can, but I have to go.
No, we're good.
You're in Brooklyn. What are you doing today?
I'm in Brooklyn. I'm going to just head to the airport so that I'm just going to go to the lounge because I have like 2 more meetings this afternoon. So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you for having me on. Like I said, fangirl moment. Love the podcast. You guys should know I run and listen to you.
Nice.
Well, I'm gonna run with my friends.
Thanks for being on, Heather. We really appreciate it. I always love working with you, and I'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, sounds
Oh,
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again this week. If you have a wedding or travel related story of your own that you would like us to share in a future episode, send us an email to theplannerspassport@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Planner's Passport and follow all of our travel and wedding businesses, including We Roam Solo, Dare to Dream Travel, and Dare to Dream Weddings. And please, if you enjoy our show, remember to rate, review, and subscribe from wherever you are listening to this podcast.